Here we have a situation where the toilet flushed and the tank's not filling up. The mechanism seems to be getting a little caught up, and if I just touch it, now it starts to fill up. Thanks again for joining me, everyone, and what you just witnessed there in that short clip was an issue with my toilet fill valve. It was actually getting stuck every once in a while where you'd flush and then it wouldn't refill. The mechanism that opens up the flow of water within the flush valve was getting hung up or stuck. And then you saw me have to tap it a couple of times before it would get going again and refill the tank. So which would mean every time that would happen, which wasn't every time we would flush, you have to take the lid off the tank and hit it, and it's just, annoying. And the replacements are not that expensive, and it's easier to just replace it than to try to figure out how to fix the one that's there. So what I'm going to do is replace it, and I'll teach you how to replace it with an identical toilet flush valve. This one happens to be a Fluid Master. It's not a brand thing for me, but just a style I like. I like this. I like how the float goes up and down like this versus another one that you might see, especially in the olden days. You had one on a rod with the adjustable float bowl on the end, and I'm not sure how old you are watching this, but we used to bend it once in a while, screw it as far in as we could to adjust the water height. Not a fan of those. Or the canister ones where the canister has a gasket around the bottom. You flush and it lifts the canister up. All the water goes down into the toilet and then the canister closes again. I've had too many issues with those where that big seal would leak more than even the flapper would on this style. So I'm going to replace it with the identical one, and these are fairly simple. They really come with just one part, which is the lock nut on the bottom, and then this little clip that holds this hose onto the overflow tube. And the overflow tube is any overflow for the tank. If the tank fills up too high, it fills into the overflow tube. I'll show that to you in a moment. But also this hose going into the overflow tube will add that extra residual water that you normally see at the bottom of the toilet tank before you flush it. When you go to the bathroom, you have a little pool of water in there. Well, you can adjust that height here with this, and that water goes in there through this tube. A little clip comes with this to hold it on there nice and neat so it doesn't spray all over the place, which has happened to me a couple of times. So you really don't even need any tools with this. If you can get that lock nut off by hand, then you don't need any tools. Otherwise, you might just need a little wrench like this. You'll need a sponge. I'm just going to use a sponge that I use to wash the car to get any residual water out of the bottom of the tank. And a small bucket or something else even smaller that's easier to get under there. When you disconnect the flush valve, you might have some water that might drip out. So you can either use a little paint tray or a little container from the kitchen. This happens to be a yogurt, empty yogurt container. Whatever it is, something small to be able to catch any potential water that could drip out when you remove the old flush valve. So let's get in that bathroom and swap this thing out. In the bathroom now, the first thing we're going to do is get this stuff off of here and take the tank lid off. Next, we want to shut off the water. Okay, let's open the toilet here. We want to flush what's in here to get most of it out. Holding the handle down to let any residual drip out. Okay, so you can see there's about 1.5 inches of water still remaining down there. We're going to use a sponge, and you could use a sponge and squeeze it out into the toilet, or a bucket that you see on the side. A lot of toilets have a lot of like black residue and deposits down at the bottom of the tank like that. If that was the case, I probably would not want to squeeze that water into the toilet because I get all that crap all over the sides of the toilet, and I wouldn't want to do that. In this case, it's not a problem. That's pretty clean in the bottom. You can see that. And a lot of people suggest that I use a shop vac for this too. Well, you're going to see how quick and easy this is. By the time you set up a shop vac, remember you got to take the filter off if you're using water, and then you're going to have to dump that water someplace, dry out the shop vac. Maybe there's residual dust and dirt from a prior use with the shop vac. Now you've made mud. Really not a fan of using the shop vac here. The sponge always works great for me. Okay, it was about 7 squeezes of the sponge. I got it. It's a little dirty, that water. Not too bad. Now we want to disconnect the water and remove the flush valve. This is when we want to get your little container ready. Going to be some extra water in this hose. Again, this all came off by hand. I did not loosen this initially with anything. Okay, that's out. Keep this down here, and hopefully you can see the little nut up here. Okay, might need that wrench to get that off. Okay, got it moving. Just needed just a little bit. Here it comes. Okay. That wasn't so bad. A little bit coming out still. Leave this thing wedged in there. Okay, we're going to toss the valve in the old bucket. Here we go. Alright, so now we're going to install the new one. When we install this, we want the top of this flush valve to be about 3 inches above the canister here, which is where the water would potentially spill over. So before we actually seal this, I'm going to check out the height. Put that in there and see how high this is. Make sure or the other measurement they use is the cap, if it's level with the where the handle rod comes through. The cap's just slightly above. This thing can be adjusted just slightly, so that way this cap can be lowered. All you do is turn this a little bit. That lowered it. Now we'll put it back. That's better. Okay. Now we're going to go put the nut back onto the bottom of this new flush valve. We'll tighten it on, and then we'll take it from there. You want to make sure that when you're tightening this, that the flush valve on the inside is resting in the position that you want. Not doing it too much because we don't want to plastic, and we don't want to break anything. Just enough to get that gasket to squeeze down to prevent any leaks. Now we can put this back. We're not going to turn the water on yet because we do not want this thing filling up with water until we're ready. But we are tightening this. Okay, we talked about the overflow tube, and in this canister just goes right into the top here. We don't need a clip. Just squeezes right in there, so when we flush the toilet, this hose is going to fill the water level. We'll get to that in a moment. We adjust it here. So now let's turn on the water. Okay, so before we flush it, here's what I notice. The water level stopped. Let me get a different light in here. Not sure if you can see that. The water level now is about 1.5 inches below the top of the canister. We want, well, I want the water higher, at least up to 1/2 inch below the top. So what you do there is you will adjust it like this. What that does is it allows the float to come up higher. I'm screwing it clockwise. Okay, this is about as high as it goes right now. So the other thing I could do is potentially raise that that stem like I did in the beginning. I can get it to come up higher, but I think that's going to be good for now. So let's give the flush a shot. What I'm looking for is how much water is in the tank, and excuse me, in the bowl. It's quite a bit. Okay, it's quite a bit of water. I think I want a little less. So you can see this adjustment on here. We turn it clockwise to have less water, counterclockwise for more water. So I'm going to do that right there. Let's see what happens. Wow. What happened is the toilet's filling up faster too because there's less water going into the overflow tube and more of it's heading into the tank instead. I like that. But we didn't get that much water in the toilet. So I think we're going to adjust it back a little bit. Let's try that. Flush it again. It's a very touchy adjustment, it looks like. That might be good right there. And it filled up nicely too. So it didn't take that long. So I think I'm happy with that. I'm gonna go recap with you in the garage after we put the lid and everything else back on. That was really easy, wasn't it? Didn't it look easy? If you haven't done that before, you should try it. It really is a simple home improvement project. And you know, actually I wouldn't even call it a home improvement project. We really didn't improve anything. It's more of a home repair project, if anything. You know, a toilet flush valve is just a necessary thing that doesn't do anything for the improvement of your home. And before some of you comment like you did on the last toilet video about me not wearing gloves, I don't care. All I did was fix my toilet. I'm going to go make a sandwich with these very same hands next and eat it, and you're going to have to get over it. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate you hitting that like button. If you want to see more toilet videos, you can just surf my channel. If there are any other type of home repair or home improvement videos you'd like to see, just recommend what you want to see down in the comments, and I'll do my best to make that video for you. Thanks again for watching, and I'll look forward to you coming to watch my next video. Thanks very much.